Hey guys, it's Kira, and in this lesson we'll be talking about how to bring something from Photoshop into Illustrator. And we'll often be doing this if we have some kind of sketch or drawing that we want to clean up in Photoshop before we start vectorizing in Illustrator. And there'll be two problems that we're going to be trying to address in this case. That'll be the perspective and the color adjustments. So, I already have a new file opened up and I just popped in the scan. And I'm just going to close this. And we're going to try to get this as close as possible to just a black and white image that we can work with fairly easily in Illustrator. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it. So Command T and rotate while holding Shift. That way we get those perfect 90-degree angles. I'm going to hit the crop tool just by hitting C on your keyboard. And I'm just going to bring this to the sides. So now we have that little problem of the perspective being off. So we'll address the first problem and we'll go to Edit, Transform, and Perspective. And we'll want to take the perspective from this right hand side and just shift it up just a bit. And it's already looking much better if we just bring it somewhat right here. That looks good. And then from here, we're just gonna crop it once more. I'm just going to bring this all the way down, all the way up, and just kill the space on both sides. Okay. So now we have to do the color adjustment in order to get rid of that grainy white around the logo and just be left with the black. So the easiest way to do this is to start off with the exposure. So we can go to the window, adjustments, a little panel will pop up, and we can click exposure. I'm just going to start increasing it. And somewhere around here, you really just have to eyeball it. The black starts popping out fairly well. And then we can apply levels, which can boost the black values. So we can get a very pitch black solid color. And then if need be, we can apply curves and just play around with it. If you have some kind of inking on the left hand side or the top, it might start to make it disappear. But otherwise, we don't really see a difference in doing this. Looks pretty good. So from here, all we have to do now is just save it out. So we can do File, Export, Save for Web. It can just call Mount. And then in Illustrator, we can just grab the file that we saved and just click and drag it into Illustrator. And I'll just make it slightly smaller and fit it into our document. Perfect. So now we wouldn't actually want to be vectorizing anything on top of this image, on the same layer at least. Because that way it'll get very messy, we'll start to get confused with the files, and we won't be able to check what the befores and after for our logo is while we're actually trying to sketch this out. So I'm going to go to New Layer, and this will be the layer that we'll be vectorizing on. And then I'm going to lock the layer with the image, double click that little thumbnail icon, and click Dim Images to 50%. That way, when we're actually working on the layer 3, or in this case just the layer above the image, if we, let's say, just vectorize this V really quickly, then we'll be able to see what we vectorized and what we haven't vectorized. At the same time, we can actually still keep the guides because we can see what is left to do. But it's not getting in the way. Otherwise, if we didn't have this enabled, the dim images to 50%, then we would have no idea what is left to vectorize. And we also wouldn't be able to catch any mistakes because it's the same colors, right? So that's a really good workflow to adopt. So that's all there is to bringing something from Photoshop to Illustrator. You're just changing the perspective and you're just throwing on some minor color adjustments just to get rid of any noise that you might have in the picture. And then in Illustrator, you just continue with the normal workflow of pen tooling and just adding shapes and shapes and shapes to create the definition of the actual path that you want. So I'll see you in the next lesson.